Okay, so let's rank The Who's top 10 albums. Well, it's 12 actually. Okay folks, and welcome to another edition of Stevie's Vinyl Cupboard with me, Stevie, and some vinyl out of the cupboard. Today we're going to rank The Who's albums, the top 10 albums, with 12, so let's just rank all 12. So I'm going to be using the new ranking system, which I've spoken about in a previous video, and I won't go into the methodology. I'm going to do that later in the year when I've done 10 of these things, but it basically takes a lot of complicated factors, makes them very simple. So I'm going to do these in order of appearance, and just give them a mark, and then we'll rank them as we go. So in at number one is 1965. It's My Generation. Okay, so this one's got a score of, I've given this one a score of 28.5. You'll see as I go along. Standout tracks are My Generation and The Kids Are Alright. Kids Are Alright is an all-time favourite of mine. Other tracks like The Good's Gone and Legal Matter and It's Not True. Don't really care for the cover, the James Brown Bo Diddley covers. They scored quite lowly. So overall, 28.5 for My Generation. So the next one is a quick one from 1966, and this gets a score of 25 points. Few tracks on this. Cobwebs and Strange is just basically strange, but quite funny. Should be in some sort of comedy routine. But the standout tracks for me were Heatwave, the cover, and a quick one While He's Away, and my all-time favourite So Sad About Us was covered by The Jam. So 25 for a quick one, 25 points. So that is a quick one While He's Away. I kind of marked down the quick one While He's Away track, because the album track I think is nowhere near as good as it is live, but it did score quite highly. So that's a quick one, 25 points. 1967 next was The Who Sell Out. Now this one is an album I know some people think it's a masterpiece and they really love it. I've never got on with it. I would like a copy of it, but just for sentimental reasons, really. I just don't get on with this album. I've marked everything quite low. If I have favourite songs on it, Tattoo, Can't Reach You, I Can See for Miles is a standout hit, and that's not really a favourite of mine. So The Who Sell Out gets 13.8 points. 13.8, so quite low. To me, the whole thing is, you can hear loads of riffs for later stuff, particularly Tommy. Of course, Royale ends up in Tommy in some form or other. But there's lots of little hints here at Tommy, and this is very much, I don't know, sort of treading into psychedelia, but still with pop. It doesn't really work. I'm afraid the John Entwistle tracks just don't work for me at all. Blah blah blah. So sorry, 13.8 points. Thank you. So we've had like mini rock opera, a quick one While He's Away. We've had the Tommy practice run, which is The Who Sell Out, and then we have the holy trinity of rock operas. We have, of course, 1969 Tommy. We have 1971 Who's Next, which was from the Lifehouse Project, attempted rock opera, failed rock opera, but that was the resulting album from it, 1971. And then, of course, the standout Quadrophenia. So let's see how we get on with these three. So, ladies and gentlemen, 1969 gives us Tommy. So we're talking about the album, not the film soundtrack or anything else. Yeah, what can you say about this? What I've done with this one for the songs, for the ones that create a joinder to the narrative, like the Hawker, Fiddle About, There's a Doctor, Miracle Cure, Tommy's Holiday Camp, I've excluded those from the overall marking. So favourites of Tommy, the whole thing just kind of fits together and it works. In previous attempts where you try to do rock opera things, this is where it all comes together, and it comes together very effectively. So we have whole blocks of stuff that is favourites. Obviously Pinball Wizard's a favourite, but 1921, Amazing Journey, Sparks are a brilliant batch of three songs. Tommy, Can You Hear Me? I'm Free. Those are the real, so 6 really standout tracks over the whole thing, but nothing is very, very weak. Perhaps a couple of the interludes, some of the ones I don't like, Cousin Kevin or Christmas that much, but even things like the overture and the underture, they work, everything fits together. So that's Tommy coming in 34.6, top of the pile so far. So here we have Who's Next. She tried to find me. Original OG copy. There's the track listing. As you might guess, it comes in pretty high. Standout tracks, obviously Baba O'Reilly Won't Get Fooled Again, they come in at near perfect. Other outstanding tracks, Bargain, Love Ain't for Keeping, Song is Over is sublime, Behind Blue Eyes, Bargain, Love Ain't for Keeping are brilliant tracks. If slight criticism, Entwistle's My Wife, it's not a real favourite of mine and I had to mark it down, but it comes in at a stonking mark, 60.1. My system is working. In at number 1, top 10 so far. So yes, Quadrophenia. Why should I care if I have to cut my hair? It's you who takes the shame. You are under the impression I don't suppose you would remember me, but I used to follow Stevie in 23. Remember the cat with the door sweet scratch. Oh boy. Comes in at a, well, what can you say about this album? The whole thing, unlike Tommy, the whole thing works. The whole thing is a complete soundscape of things that intermingle. Obviously, it's got the narrative. There's not a bad track on the album. Probably the lowest marked track is Drowned, and that's scored pretty high. So the standout tracks, Quadrophenia, were the track Quadrophenia for me, Bellboy, The Rock, and Love Rain Over Me with the perfect scores. The whole thing, album, I give a score of 73.5. There's nothing coming close to this, you know that. So this is number 1 so far, and I suspect will anything knock it on its perch. I don't think so. So maybe we have a winner already. The whole thing is just sublime. It fits together. It's an orchestra. It's a narrative. It's a rock opera. It's a bit of prog rock, if you like. But the whole thing works, and it's very beautiful. And it's one of my favourites, if not my all-time favourite LP of all time. And so my marking system is working. I knew this would probably come in at number one. It's come straight in at number one, and it's probably going to stay there. Quadrophenia, love it. So we come next to The Who by Numbers.
So long as you were on my mind.
It was 1975, and there was no following Quadrophenia. There was no beating or even equaling Quadrophenia. But this is actually perhaps a welcome break. There's some hidden gems on here. Blue, Red and Grey is a really lovely track. They're All in Love is, again, sort of a bit of a hidden gem. And Imagine a Man is one of my all-time favourite ballads. So this really has kind of like the hidden ballads on it. And I'm going to give this a score of 44.2. So yeah, shock horror, we've overtaken Tommy with this one, but it's all about consistency, and perhaps there's just too many tracks on Tommy, and of course that works on other levels. But just for the Who album as it is, we have The Who by Numbers, so that's 44.2, overtaking Tommy. And so we come to 1978's Who Are You? Sadly, the last album with Keith Moon on it, and his track listing. This is an album that when I was young it took me a long time to get into, but now getting into like it more and more. So standout tracks, obviously Who Are You is a big favourite. Had Enough is another standout track, and pretty solid is 905 and Sister Disco. So that's Who Are You, and we're giving that one a score of 49.6. So as predictable, it's coming in higher than Who by Numbers, but lower than Who's Next. That's Who Are You, and that one is 49.6. Thank you. So 1981, we have Face Dances. Now this one doesn't tend to fare very well with critics. This has grown on me. I didn't really like it when it came out. I only liked the single You Better You Bet. But that's the standout single from it, You Better You Bet. That scored quite highly. A couple of okay ones, Don't Let Go the Coat, and I quite like Daily Records. Other songs on it, I'm afraid they don't really kind of ram home. So this one gets, it's quite close, this one with Tommy. It gets 33.3, so it's not quite as good as Tommy, but still did quite well for what it is. So that's Face Dances, 1981. Okay, so 1982, and It's Hard. Now this is an LP I haven't got at the moment. Now this is a bit of a surprise because this one, I think that it's just the quality of the songwriting, and it's a bit kind of overlooked as an album. Face Dances had a great cover, and it has those sort of 3 good moments on it, but it doesn't have that consistency, whereas It's Hard does. The songwriting is very solid, and surprisingly, I'm giving that a mark of 38.8. As I say, the marks are not great. It's just the consistent nature. One at a time, Eminence Front are kind of like the standout tracks, but One Life's Enough, I've Known No More, Cooks County, It's Your Turn. It's all good songwriting stuff. So we'll have a bit of discussion at the end. Obviously, it's overtaken Tommy, which is a bit controversial, but there we go. And so we come to Endless Wire 2006. Again, I haven't got this. What I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to skip this one because I cannot do it justice at the moment. I've never really gotten into it or listened to it, and it's basically a CD album that I think it came out on vinyl sometime later, if I'm correct, and it includes Wire and Glass, which is like a mini rock opera. So and those are a lot of kind of like 1-minute tracks, so I'm going to pass on that one, and I'm going to bump it to a future video. Maybe, who knows, I'll do a rock opera comparison video, but later on I'm going to slot in the live albums and the compilations, just to show you how this method works and how good it is. But I think for Endless Wire, I can't do it justice at the moment because I haven't listened to it enough. So I'm going to give that a big question mark at the moment. So keep you hanging on that. Okay, so last but not least, is Who.
I don't care. I know you gotta hate this song. Like beats on the string. But don't you ever sing never. Don't you ever sing never. 'Cause it don't mean a thing. It don't mean a thing. Gonna get us together. Gonna get us together. Like beats on the street.
Or I was going to say The Who, but the album is just called Who, and 2019. Some good solid performers on here, almost like a return to form. The outstanding track for me is Beads on a String. That's an absolutely brilliant track. Also solid performers, All This Music Must Fade, Ball on a Chain, Break the News. I think that involves his brother, Pete Townshend's brother. So what's the mark on this one? This gets a solid 48.8. So very good album. So there we are. So let's have a bit of a summary. Okay, so our top 10, which was going to be a top 12, but it's top 11 really. We're leaving one aside for now. So here they are. Here's the rankings with their scores, and here's their position. So at the bottom we have, it's no surprise to me, The Who Sell Out. Then a quick one, My Generation. I thought that might have scored more, but it's of its time. Face Dances, again. I was very surprised Tommy scored quite low, but then again, we are talking, hang on a sec, we are talking about the album, and it is basically a soundtrack album, and I think the Tommy sort of does much better with the film. It does much better live. When you dip into the sort of the highlights of it, it's an absolute masterpiece. When I was younger, this would have ranked a lot more. But in this ranking method, it's about what I at my stage of life now and what I like now. So a bit surprised It's Hard came above that. But there we are. It's the consistency of songwriting, and also I found myself liking The Who by numbers. So the top 4. Obviously, there's no doubt for me, Quadrophenia was going to be number 1. But with the Tommy argument, you've got a soundscape. You've got almost like a film soundtrack. All of that meshing together, but there isn't a weak song on it. The whole thing is so strong. Then I suspected Who's Next would come second, which it does. Who Are You is in third, and then the new Who LP is in fourth, and then the Who by number. So that's the top 5. So thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments. Okay, it's just my opinion. Let me know if you differ, or as I say, I will expound this ranking system when I've done a few more of these, say 10 of these later in the years, maybe by the end of the year. and tell you how it works. And then what I'll do, I will slot in the live albums so it can cope with that, the compilation albums. So then you can have sort of a top 20, including the lives, including the compilations, and you can be confident that that's kind of my opinion at least, and then you can perhaps match it to your opinion and find out what you like. So that's been my Who's Top 10 for today. Thank you for joining me. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And if you already have, thank you very much. Cheers.